In the quiet void between stars where civilizations rose and fell in silence, the Galactic Accord watched with detachment. For millennia, the Accord had governed interstellar affairs, mediating disputes, enforcing codes of conduct, and studying emergent species. Their authority stretched across constellations, and their science had mapped nearly all sentient life in the known galaxy. All except one. From a remote arm of the Milky Way, reports began to trickle in about a new sapient species. Early probes relayed confusing data. A world rife with environmental instability, divided societies, and a primitive technological level. Yet within the span of a few centuries, a blink in galactic time, the species had achieved orbital travel, split the atom, and developed global communications. The Accord flagged the species for observation. A team was assigned to monitor the planet known as Earth. Field Commander Thalrex of the Jalari species, a long-lived amphibious race with a history of scientific precision, reviewed the latest dossier. He scanned the images from Earth's digital web, a chaotic swirl of entertainment, propaganda, and misinformation. At first glance, it resembled noise, but patterns emerged. The humans were obsessed with conflict, innovation, and self-improvement. Ambassador Kellen, a synthetic life form from the data sea of Delaris, joined the analysis. Her body flickered with flowing data streams, shimmering in soft hues of blue. "They're reckless," Kellen said, voice smooth and toneless. "But effective." Thalrex tapped the display with a web digit. "Look at this. In less than 300 of their solar cycles, they moved from combustion engines to quantum computing. Their wars are brutal, but their science feeds on conflict." Kellen's lights dimmed briefly. "Should we consider them a threat?" "Unknown, but their psychological profiles concern me." Thalrex pointed to highlighted transcripts. "They exhibit traits we associate with galactic predators: high adaptability, aggression, creativity under stress. And their fiction is revealing." "You're referring to the simulations they call movies? Books?" "Exactly. In their narratives, they prepare for betrayal, invasion, extinction. They dream of fighting gods. Losing does not end their stories. It motivates them." The Accord convened a special session. The Council of Species gathered, elders from ancient worlds, each with their own memories of conquest or surrender. They watched a presentation of human history, projected through the filtered lens of thousands of years of wars, empires, revolutions, and renaissances. A vote was cast. Humanity would be contacted, but cautiously. A diplomatic probe, disguised as a meteor, would land in one of Earth's desolate regions. Observers would be sent, cloaked and invisible, to gather first-hand intelligence. Among those chosen was Nyla Hart, a human cultural analyst recruited years earlier when her encrypted transmissions on deep space frequencies caught Accord attention. She had not expected her theoretical essays on alien civilizations to lead to actual contact. Now, embedded among the watchers, she had a mission: to interpret her own species. Neela stood on a dry mesa, cloaked in a shimmer field, watching an Earth military test miles away. Explosions echoed faintly through the air. Drones zipped overhead. A young lieutenant barked commands as tanks advanced in synchronized formation. "They're learning faster," she noted in her log. "Simulations show exponential improvements after each failure. There's no stasis, no surrender to limitations." Commander Thalrex appeared beside her, his shimmer field gently refracting light. He handed her a datapad. "Their first spacefaring colony is nearly complete, on Luna." "That's ahead of schedule," Nyla said. "Do they know we're watching?" "Doubtful. But there's something else." Thalrex gestured to the horizon. "One of their private corporations just tested a solar sail in orbit. They're no longer depending solely on nations. They're decentralizing exploration," Neela said. "That means innovation will accelerate." "Indeed. And their AIs are unstable, but growing rapidly." The council grew uneasy. A new report showed humanity experimenting with neural interface systems, technology once banned across half the Accord due to its capacity for mental warfare. A few voices argued for early containment. Others pushed for alliance. The debates were long, but ultimately inconclusive. The humans were too unpredictable. Then came the Martian signal. It was faint, encoded in a way no Accord species had used in 10,000 years. Yet Earth's systems recognized the pattern. Within months, a human team deciphered it, launched a response, and claimed first contact, entirely unaware that the signal had been planted by the Accord as a test. They passed. Or failed, depending on perspective. By the time a formal envoy arrived in Earth's orbit, humanity had already guessed their intentions. The United Earth Alliance, a temporary coalition forged just for this moment, greeted the emissary with smiles, caution, and a message broadcast in 100 languages. We are honored to join the galactic community, but we are not naive. We come with open hands, but they are not empty. Thalrex studied the message frame by frame. Buried within the imagery were subtle cues, references to Earth's military power, scientific versatility, and cultural resilience. A veiled warning. Kellen analyzed the psychological profile. They are signaling diplomacy backed by deterrence. Clever. It reminded the Council of a long-extinct predator on the gas world Geranth. It had lured prey with stillness, only to strike with precision when provoked. The Accord decided to proceed. They offered humanity a provisional seat, access to galactic archives, and trade rights. Humanity accepted. But unlike others, they didn't rush to adopt galactic norms. Instead, they observed. They listened. And then they adapted. At first, the Accord welcomed humanity's restraint. Other emergent species had overwhelmed themselves in their eagerness to join galactic society. They adopted alien technology too quickly, abandoned their cultures, and fractured under the weight of change. But humans were different. They treated alien technology not as salvation, but as a puzzle. Every device traded or shared was dismantled, reverse-engineered, improved, or repurposed. When given access to Starship designs, they didn't mass-produce them. They redesigned propulsion systems, optimized shield harmonics, enhanced AI learning parameters beyond safe limits. Ambassador Kellen reviewed the data flowing from Earth. Their replication of our systems is unsettling. They're not just using what we give them. They're making it better. Commander Thalrex was less surprised. This is what we expected. They take chaos and make tools out of it. It's their nature. Still, questions arose in the Council. A proposal was made to slow the transfer of information, limit access. But by then, it was too late. Humanity had built bridges with non-Accord species. Traitors, rogues, and exiles had already shared forbidden knowledge in exchange for Earth's unique inventions, adaptive fusion cores, chemical to biological converters, sublight thrusters with heat signatures so faint they were invisible to standard scans. And Earth shared little in return. Their major breakthroughs remained classified under their highest interstellar security tiers. Even their supposed allies received redacted versions of research logs. A pattern emerged. Humanity gave just enough to appear cooperative while building something far more dangerous in secret. On Callisto, one of Jupiter's moons, a human research station named Echo Bastion quietly ran war simulations. Unknown to the Accord, Earth's defense networks had expanded beyond simple protection. They were testing offensive planetary disruption arrays, algorithms for predictive war planning, and stealth weapon platforms disguised as civilian shipping nodes. Nyla Hart, still serving as a cultural liaison, sent a warning to her Accord contacts. Something is shifting. They've stopped asking questions about peace. Now they're asking about deterrence, retaliation, contingency. Kellen responded immediately. Do you think they're preparing for war? I think they expect one. Or maybe they've already decided it's inevitable. What Neela didn't know, what no one outside Earth's high command knew, was that contact had not been universally celebrated. Hidden factions within humanity saw the Accord not as a council of peace, but a cabal of manipulators. Theories spread in shadowed networks. Earth had been lured, tested, and now monitored like livestock. Then came the tragedy that changed everything. On the outer colony of Ardent Reach, a small human settlement of scientists and engineers, a cloaked drone struck without warning. No claim of responsibility followed. The blast killed 243, most of them civilians. The Accord expressed regret and began an investigation, but humans had already begun their own. Within 36 hours, Earth's cybernet had tracked the drone's telemetry signature to a stealth ship used by the Varelian Enclave. a radical breakaway faction exiled centuries earlier for war crimes. Though not part of the Accord, the Varelians were known to operate in neutral sectors. Earth demanded justice. The Accord hesitated. The Varelians were elusive, and an attack on them risked reigniting ancient conflicts. A diplomatic path was proposed, but Earth had already launched Operation SCIFI-HFY. Using new FTL jump vectors, humanity bypassed Varelian front lines and struck at 3 hidden bases simultaneously. Orbital cannons deployed tungsten rods from low orbit. No nuclear detonation, no collateral radiation. Just kinetic force, precise and silent. 3 bases, 0 survivors. The Council was horrified. The humans had acted unilaterally. No warning, no alliance coordination. And their weapons, unlike anything the Accord had sanctioned in 10,000 years, had bypassed even the most advanced shield harmonics. Ambassador Kellen requested an emergency meeting with Earth's representatives. Neela Hart was present, seated quietly in the observation chamber. General Nathan Cross, Earth's appointed military envoy, faced the Council alone. He was calm, direct, and unapologetic. "We do not start wars," he said, "but we end threats." Counselor Ithalis, a crystalline entity with 10,000 cycles of diplomacy behind it, questioned him. "You defied protocol. You escalated conflict. We neutralized murderers. If your protocols protected them, then your protocols are flawed." Kellen's form dimmed as she processed the implications. "Are you threatening the Accord?" Number Cross leaned forward. "But we are watching, as you have watched us, and we have learned." The Council recessed for deliberation. But something had changed. The balance of power had shifted, subtly but undeniably. Humanity, once a curiosity on the edge of the galaxy, now stood among the apex civilizations. Not by population, not by territory, but by mindset. Because humans were not afraid to burn the stars to protect their own. On Luna's dark side, in a classified facility beneath the ancient crater Aristarchus B, engineers activated Project Revenant, a fail-safe system designed to coordinate planetary defense grids with autonomous strike platforms. The system was not built to survive war. It was built to end them. Back on Earth, civilian life continued with strange normalcy. Children played, artists painted, cities pulsed with light and noise. But in orbit, hidden among cargo fleets and relay buoys, humanity's warships waited, silent, cloaked, patient. Nyla returned to her post on Echo Bastion. She passed a long mirror in the corridor and paused. She looked tired, older. There was a new weight in her eyes, an understanding of what was coming. In her private log, she wrote one line. "They warned us they'd never start the fire, but they never said they wouldn't finish it." In the years following Operation SCIFI-HFY, humanity underwent a quiet transformation. It didn't announce itself with parades or declarations. It unfolded in data centers, in low-orbit test beds, in conversations behind shielded doors. The human race, once fragmented and noisy, had aligned its priorities. Not perfectly, not forever, but enough. Enough to prepare. The Accord noticed. Surveillance probes detected subtle shifts in Earth's political alignment. Defense budgets surged. New joint efforts between former rival blocs suggested an unprecedented level of coordination. Earth's High Command restructured into a streamlined command interface distributed across Earth, Luna, and Mars. Neela Hart visited Mars for the first time in decades. The Capitol dome over New Ares shimmered like glass beneath the red sun. She walked through the university district, past towering monuments etched with names of engineers, pilots, and physicists. No politicians, no celebrities, just builders. She met with Director Paige Monroe, a former quantum physicist turned military systems strategist. Monroe didn't believe in small talk. "We've reached parity with most Accord tech," she said. "In some areas, we're beyond it." Nyla frowned. "And what does that mean?" "It means if they push, we won't bend." Back in Accord space, unease spread. Some believed humanity could still be integrated, tempered by diplomacy, softened by trade. Others feared the opposite, that humanity was a fire that could not be contained. Kellen, once a calm voice of analysis, now showed signs of calculation. She had begun running risk scenarios. In 60% of simulations, humanity responded to threats with disproportionate force. In 30%, they preemptively neutralized those threats. And in the remaining 10%, they didn't wait for a threat to appear. The Council commissioned a black flag operation, no authorization, no accountability. The goal: destabilize Earth's power structure, sabotage key military advancements, and insert behavioral influence algorithms into their AI cores. The plan failed, not because Earth detected the operatives, but because Earth had already predicted the move. The agents never made it to the planet. Their shuttle, hacked mid-transit, rerouted into the event horizon of a black hole near Vega. No traces remained. The Council denied involvement, but the message had been received. Neela stood with General Cross on the observation deck of the orbital station Sentinel Prime. Below them, Earth spun in silence. A blue world armed with thoughts of war. "You know they won't stop," Cross said. "They'll keep testing us, and we'll keep passing." He turned to her. "Not if we keep playing defense. At some point, we change the game." She didn't like the sound of that, but she knew what he meant. Elsewhere, rumors spread. Outposts whispered of human scouts appearing where no starships should reach. Derelict Accord stations found stripped, not of valuables, but of data. Entire libraries copied, down to their hidden archives. Earth's fleets, though officially defensive, grew quiet and fast. They no longer relied on known jump gates. They had created their own routes, dark pathways through folded space that no Accord sensors could trace. And then came the event on Cygnus 4. A remote mining colony in neutral space reported a sudden gravitational anomaly. A wormhole formed, stable and artificial. From it emerged 3 ships, sleek, silent, adorned not with Earth's flags, but with no symbols at all. They scanned the system, took samples from the gas giant, and vanished. No violence, no diplomacy, no explanation. It was a flex. The message was clear: we can go anywhere. At the next Accord summit, Earth sent no representatives. Instead, a signal. It contained an encoded philosophical essay titled "Predation and Peace, a Dual Instinct." The author was unknown, but Nyla recognized the language. It argued that peace is not the natural state of intelligent life, but a maintained equilibrium, a predator choosing not to bite, not because it is harmless, but because it chooses civility. The essay closed with a warning. Do not mistake caution for weakness. The Council fell into disarray. Some demanded sanctions. Others begged for appeasement. But a few, the oldest and wisest, simply nodded. They understood. Centuries ago, a species called the Meraxi had claimed galactic dominance. They built fleets the size of moons, enslaved dozens of worlds, and silenced dissent through fear. But they had no imagination. When their victims banded together, the Meraxi fell. Not from overwhelming power, but from overconfidence. Their empire collapsed in a generation. Humans, the elders whispered, are not like the Meraxi. They are not conquerors. They are survivors, and survivors play the long game. Back on Earth, Project Revenant entered Phase 3. The system no longer required human oversight. It could predict enemy movements across entire sectors. It could deploy countermeasures before a missile left its silo, and it could act without hesitation. Some in the high command were uneasy. A fully autonomous system? What if it miscalculated? General Cross gave the final override key to Nyla. You've seen both sides, he said. If things go bad, you'll know what to do. She didn't feel honored. She felt afraid, because deep down she knew the truth. Humanity had become the thing the galaxy feared most. Not a tyrant, not a warmonger, but a patient apex predator with a memory. One that never forgot ardent reach. One that never forgave weakness disguised as diplomacy. And above all, one that never waited for permission to survive. Time passed, but the unease never did. Across Accord space, civilizations spoke in whispers when they spoke of Earth. Treaties were rewritten, trade routes realigned to avoid human-controlled sectors. Even the rogue enclaves, known for their arrogance, began adopting Earth-style stealth protocols and defense modeling. Yet Earth said nothing, launched no invasions, made no demands. That was what unsettled the Accord most. They could not understand a power that didn't seek to dominate. They feared a force that simply waited. From orbit, Earth looked unchanged, cloud-covered, vibrant, almost delicate. But beneath that calm surface, its people moved with quiet precision. Their society had not become militaristic in the traditional sense. Instead, every citizen knew their role in a larger structure, an ecosystem where peace was protected like a flame in a storm. Not because humans love peace, but because they understood the cost of losing it. On Mars, Director Monroe oversaw the expansion of Project Revenant into a distributed grid stretching to Titan, Europa, and the asteroid belt. Autonomous weapons platforms were disguised as mining rigs. Research stations doubled as command beacons. The system no longer merely reacted to threats, it anticipated them. In the corridors of Earth's Strategic Intelligence Division, simulations ran without end. Entire civilizations, modeled in virtual space, were stress-tested against human defense doctrines. If an unknown species emerged tomorrow, Earth would be ready. If an ancient enemy returned, Earth would not blink. Meanwhile, the Accord began its own preparations. But their moves felt desperate. They expanded fleets, deployed diplomats, signed new alliances. Yet none of it mattered, because everyone knew. If Earth decided to strike, there would be no warning, no buildup, no speeches, just silence. And then, nothing. Nyla Hart found herself walking alone through the ruins of an old coastal city, now preserved as a memorial to Earth's pre-contact era. No hovercrafts, no drones, just stone and wind. She passed a statue of a child holding a star. The plaque read, "To dream we endured." Later, she met with General Cross one last time. He was older now, slower in movement, but his eyes were sharp, focused. "They're scared of us," she said. "They should be," he replied. "That's not peace." He studied her. It's deterrence." She lowered her gaze. "Is that all we are now?" Cross didn't answer right away. He turned to the wide viewport behind him, where Earth's pale curve touched the darkness of space. "We were given a galaxy full of history, full of scars. And we saw what happened to those who waited too long to act. We chose not to wait." A transmission interrupted them. It was from the outer relay near Proxima Centauri. Unscheduled, encrypted, high priority. Cross took it in silence. When it ended, he turned to Nyla, jaw tense. A vessel just crossed the boundary into Sol space. Unknown design. Not Accord, not Rogue, not human. First contact? Maybe, or maybe not. She followed him to the command center. Holographic maps displayed the foreign craft's trajectory. It had bypassed known jump corridors. Its signal was distorted, its purpose unclear. The command staff watched for orders. Cross turned to Nyla. "You have the key," he said. "What do you think?" She stared at the display, at the silent dot drifting closer. For a long time, she said nothing. Then she stepped forward. "No escalation. Open a channel. Show them who we are." Cross raised an eyebrow. "You think they'll listen?" She smiled faintly. "If they don't, they'll learn." The room moved quickly. Messages queued. Defensive nodes on alert, but not armed. A calm readiness. Outside the station, Revenant's silent satellites adjusted course, quietly repositioning to defend without provocation. They moved like chess pieces, unseen, deliberate. The alien vessel slowed. A response came. No weapons, no threat. Just a single sentence, in perfect English. "We have been watching." Neela inhaled. Cross narrowed his eyes. Another observer, or something worse. The message continued. "We have seen what you've done. You ended what others would have prolonged. You hunted only when cornered. You burned only when the fire was already rising. We are not here to fight. We are here to learn." The room fell silent. Nyla looked at the projection. The ship had stopped just outside the exosphere. Waiting. Maybe this was it. A test. A challenge. Or maybe a mirror held up to everything humanity had become. She spoke quietly. "Then let them see." Earth opened the door. No fleets. No ultimatums. Just an invitation. And so the Watchers came. They toured Luna's archives. They examined Mars's defenses. They saw the scars of ardent reach and the silence of the Varelian dead. They learned of Earth's restraint, its fury, its memory. They learned what the Accord had not, that humanity had not risen to dominate the stars. It had simply refused to be dominated. Weeks later, the ship departed. No promises were made, no treaty signed, but the message had been received. Across the galaxy, a shift began. Quiet at first, then louder. Accord fleets began decommissioning old warships. Rogue factions halted their incursions. An uneasy calm settled over known space. And at the heart of it all, Earth stood still. Not because it had to, but because it chose to. High above the planet, Sentinel Prime turned slowly in orbit, its lights steady, its command logs quiet. In a darkened corridor, Nyla wrote the final line of her journal. We did not conquer the galaxy. We made it think twice.